Welcome to the coolest stuff on the planet.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the coolest stuff on the planet. I'm Kathryn.
I'm Rachel.
And here we are, we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics today, which is books.
Yay.
Yeah, I know. I love to read, so I thought this would be a fun one to record. So we're going to visit some places that are associated with famous authors. We're going to start off with the first author, which is Ian Fleming. And he wrote the James Bond books, and he actually wrote them in my hometown of Jamaica, so of course we had to feature him. And he came to Jamaica during World War II, and he just fell in love with the place, and after the war he actually bought a property in St. Mary. Today it's actually part of a resort called the Golden Eye Resort. So, Chris Blackwell, who is a very famous music producer and hotelier, he made it kind of the centerpiece of the resort. And you can actually stay in his home, which is now called the Ian Fleming Villa. It costs you about $5,000 a night.
Wow. And which part of the island is this on, St. Mary?
This is on the north coast. It's fairly close to Ocho Rios.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. So in the beautiful beachy...
Exactly. And, you can stay in there are other properties on there you can stay, which won't set you back as much. But if you really want to imagine yourself, as Ian Fleming writing James Bond, you can have the full experience.
So next up on our list is probably one of my favorite American authors. I don't know about you, Kathryn, but Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Who's a great humorist and writer and all sorts of things. His real name was obviously Samuel Clemens. And he has a couple of houses that are famous. There's his boyhood home, but the one we were sort of most interested in is the house he lived in Hartford, Connecticut, which is now like the house and a museum.
Yeah.
And he lived and worked there from, it was 1874 to 1891, I think, and he wrote some of his most famous books, like he wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. So a lot of his creative stuff, at least that early stuff, happened there.
Yeah, and I think that was where he was happiest, right?
Yeah, there were some quotes, I liked it on the website, talking about how the family just loved being there, and they had built it specially, that house, and their happiest times were there. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah, it's very elaborate, and I know that as they got into financial difficulties, they had to leave it, and they were very sorry about that because this was the place that meant the most to them.
But today it is a museum, so you can go check it out. You can see the restored house. They have educational activities. They have exhibits. So it's like Mark Twain Palooza, basically.
Yeah, and they actually build a building next to it, which they use for exhibition halls and for concerts and stuff like that. So they have the museum and also the center next to it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Another famous one is Laura Ingalls Wilder, who actually wrote the Little House on the Prairie series. And she lived all over the Midwest, and their houses or monuments to her all over. But the one that I would recommend is the one in De Smet, South Dakota.
And that's the one you visited, right?
Yeah, I visited that one, and I'm a big fan of those books, so it was really special to go there. They actually have two houses there. One is the Surveyor's house, where she lived first during the period of Silver Lake, and then after that there's the house that they lived in the town, little town on the prairie, when she was a teenager.
Okay.
And where the family actually spent their remaining years after she left. The rest of the family lived there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can actually go there and take a tour of the two houses and actually see a lot of other things in the town. There's a whole map of other places mentioned in the books that are there.
Oh, that's fun. I would totally do that. That's another one like Anne of Green Gables, where I grew up watching the TV show and didn't read the books.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I would totally take that tour.
And it's very hands-on. They have a little place where they'll show you where where kids can see what it was like to be in a one-room schoolhouse, and there's activities for kids there and all that. So
that's fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next landmark on our list is a little less family-oriented, I guess.
We've got to cover all our bases.
Yeah, we've got a broad range of things here. So this one, we're headed to Stockholm, and this is, I'm sure everyone, unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard of the Millennium trilogy books.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, all those books. And, they were huge. They blew up. So now
movie coming out too, right?
Yeah, they had the Swedish ones, and now they're American versions. The city of Stockholm, they have a Millennium tour that you can take. So you can basically follow. You can check out parts of Stockholm where the characters, the places they frequented, the apartments they lived in.
Yeah.
I think I was reading even part of the tour is that there's a 7-Eleven somewhere in Stockholm that's featured because the character would go there and get like crappy pizzas and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's even featured on the tour.
Wow. Yeah, there's a place where you can see the actual Millennium office where the main character, Michael Bloomquist, worked. And then you can also see Elizabeth Sanders' apartment.
And his apartment.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So you get a real feel of what it was like to walk in their footsteps.
Yeah. I was also reading, too, that you do get some general history of Stockholm. So it's
okay.
not just, related to the series.
That's very cool. And our final stop is going to be in Africa. Baroness Karen Blixen wrote this famous book called Out of Africa, which was about her time on a coffee farm in the Ingalls Hills. I hope I said that right, in Kenya. And it became this really popular movie in '85 with Meryl Streep and Robert Redford.
Yeah, we were talking about that, because you had seen that, and I have not yet seen that.
Check it out. It's a good one.
But I didn't realize she was Danish.
Yeah, she was Danish, and they moved there to farm, and she left afterwards. But, this was a very important period in her life. And interestingly, it was not until after the movie came out and revived popularity and interest in her that they turned her house into a museum.
Okay.
Yeah, so before that, it had been the principal's house. They'd actually turned her farm into a college for nutrition, and her house had become the principal's house.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so after that, people wanted to see it, so it's a museum today.
So what can you see at the museum now?
You can see there's a lot of furniture from when she was there, and, set up on the hills, so a lot of artifacts associated with her. Yeah.
Sounds like something that fans of the book would probably just eat right up.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that concludes our tour of literary landmarks. It was a short one, but we hope you like it.
Yeah, and check out our blog. We're going to have more information on these places and some other landmarks that we didn't get to cover. And we'll see you next time on The Coolest Stuff on the Planet.
For more on this and thousands of other topics, visit HowStuffWorks.com. And let us know what you think. Email travelpodcast@HowStuffWorks.com. Don't forget to check out our other podcasts, free on iTunes.